This is AJ with Effect Radio, and we have with us Nate Parrish. Hello and welcome.
Hello, how's it going?
Great. It's great to have you. What I was telling you off camera is that I appreciate the nice long hair.
Oh yeah, it's people ask me how long did it take to grow your hair? And I don't even know how to answer that question. It's been long for like 20 years, so 20 years, I guess. I don't know.
Oh my goodness, that's great. Yeah. Um, so I want to start off with who you are. We know that you're a man of punk rock, but who are you as an artist? And why is punk rock your hook?
I'm a dad. I'm a Christian, husband, um, artist. So I've been doing music and all things creative since I was a kid. I think I really gravitated towards punk rock. You grow up on your parents' music, and that's kind of cool. But then you find your music, and I think that happened for me sometime in high school. Um, I just love the kind of the angst and aggression and the rawness of punk. It spoke to me. It was really straightforward. Like you may not understand the concept that they're singing about, but you knew that they really meant it. And for me, that really spoke to me. Just like the honesty and the rawness of punk rock is what I gravitated to. So that's kind of where I find myself.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed punk myself. It has a little edgy sound that's a little different, so I've always enjoyed that. And going back on your history, before you were doing and releasing albums you currently have, your social media profile declares you as formal guitarist for Kutless and dying for. Can you dive into that a little bit for us? Because we have many listeners that are fans of both those groups.
Yeah, so Worth Dying For was my first like real band. Um, I got into worship at my church. I was an intern and we had a youth band and we started writing our own songs. And that got the attention of record labels. And we just wanted to do our own thing. We did like I was a screamer in that band, so if you hear "Worth Dying For" all the screaming, that was me. I kind of tried to infuse a lot of that heavy music influence into worship because coming from just a normal music background, when I got into worship, I thought, well, why can't this be cool too? So we started writing our own songs, and um, that band kind of took off and we did what we were able to do with that. And then the Cutlass thing, I met them on tour in 2008 with when I was with Worth Dying For, and I made a parody video about joining Cutlass. It was just like a kind of like behind the scenes office style video that I made, and like 8 years later, 7 years later, it actually happened. So it's really funny. We made that connection with Kellis, and I became friends with James in the band, and he literally just called me out of the blue years later and said, "Hey, do you want to play guitar on Cutlass?" And I said, "Yeah, for sure." Hung up the phone, and I was like, "Wait, can I actually do this?" So it turns out I could do it. So been doing that since 2015.
Well, how fun. I love that. So, on your solo work, you have, I believe, two albums out, and you have another one coming out. You just had a single release. Can you tell us a little bit about your albums that have been released?
Yeah, so about 2019, I realized, man, I've been in bands for a long time, but I haven't written anything that was just for me. It was always, playing in this band or writing lyrics for another vocalist or whatever. And so I decided it was time to just write my own songs, just whatever I wanted to do. No rules, nothing like that. So I got a little recording setup in the loft that I lived in at the time and just sat down and I made a commitment that whatever I write, that's what it's going to be. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm not going to try to market it to a certain audience. It was literally just going to be what comes out of my heart and my brain. And so the first album, I'm a Wreck, is literally just that. It's just, me writing songs for me, saying the things that I want to say and exploring all that and tracking the guitars and bass and everything and vocals myself. And so that really surprised me because people paid attention. Whenever I put out music, if you're an artist, you probably feel this way. No one's going to hear it, no one's going to care. But people were paying attention to it, and so it was kind of like a surprise thing where um, people had heard it and were talking about it. So then the second album came out 2 years later, Soul Surgery, and that was still a continuation of just writing really straightforward, catchy punk rock songs and talking about whatever. So I talk about politics, or I talk about church abuse, or I talk about losing loved ones, all the things. And yeah, so those albums were just really a pure reflection of what was going on with me over the last couple of years.
Well, and at the effect, we enjoy having artists that hit on those hard topics that other artists might not necessarily want to touch because it does relate to listeners. So we appreciate that from you as well. Your last single that just came out just a couple days ago, can you tell me about that one?
Yeah, that one's a little different. I think if you've listened to my music for a while, you're like, oh, yeah, he writes punk rock songs, and he's really angry at the government or whatever it is. But that song was one of those. I have a few songs like this where you just sit down and you write the song and it's totally done all in one sitting. And I remember writing that song, looking out the window. My son was playing in the backyard um, in just a diaper because that's how he rolls. And uh, that song just came to me about, it's like a slower song. It's kind of I guess I would call it a ballad. Um, but just feeling the pressures of life. And, we live in the information age where we know everything about everything. We know about all the conflicts going on in the world. We know about everyone's opinion on stuff that no one asked them about. We have all this information and it becomes so heavy that you carry that weight. And the song is really just like a talking to God of, man, I feel like I know too much. I've seen too much. I feel too big. Can you help me feel small again? And the line about, needing to see a mountain, where God represents the mountain is just sometimes you got to go and recalibrate and realize, man, God's bigger than all this stuff. And sometimes it's good to go back and approach him and as a child, approach life as a child again with that fresh sense of awe and wonderment and um, innocence, And so that's kind of what that song's about. There's a lot in that song, but that's the main idea, I think.
Yeah, that's neat. Thanks for sharing. So, with that release and having two albums already under your belt, is there plans for a third album in the near future?
There is. When I started working on this album, I wanted to try something different. I wanted to use a producer. And James, actually from Kutless, suggested Josiah Prince, who plays in Disciple, and he's made a ton of albums. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if Josiah's want to do that. But we had toured with Disciple, and they're my favorite band to tour with. I actually just played a show with them a couple days ago, and it was awesome. I love those guys. But I asked Josiah, if he'd be interested, and he said, yeah. And so we've actually been working on these batch of songs for about 2 years now, just because of he's working on this album, he's touring with Disciple, he's doing these things, and I'm doing different things. So it's kind of been a great process, but it's also really testing me in my patience because I'm used to just sitting down and doing the song and not the back and forth with the producer and things like that. But I feel like the end product is going to be a huge step up from my previous two albums. So got a lot of songs. The album's coming. I'm not exactly sure when, but it is on the way. And I think you'll have some stuff that you come to expect from me, but there's be a lot of new stuff and a lot of sonically it just sounds a lot bigger and I would say better, personally.
So, with that being said, good things come to those who wait, right?
Yeah, you know, yeah, I find out, my son is 4.5, so I'm still a new-ish dad.
Oh,
But
wow.
I realized how impatient I actually am once I have a child. Oh, wow, wow. I got to really work on this. So, yeah, gotta wait. Yeah.
Wow. So do you just have one son? Is that
Yeah.
okay? I was wondering about the home life. 4.5 is that's a fun age.
Oh, I love it. We just surprised him with a trip to Disneyland because he's been talking
Oh.
about Disneyland, and I don't even know how he saw it on the Disney Channel. They'll show commercials, and so he's like, "Wait, there's a place where all this stuff is there." And so he asked me, "Dad, can we go to Disneyland today?"
Mhm.
I'm like, well, I don't know how to explain this to you, but I'd have to sell one of our cars if we're gonna go. So, um, told me to save up, and he goes, "Well, I have money." I'm like, oh, you do? He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "How much money do you have?" Four or five. I'm like, four or five what? But he's got a little piggy bank when we save money. But we were able to go and surprise him, and it was like the best day of all of our lives. So yeah, 4.5 has been a cool time.
That's great. Actually, that's one of my memories was getting surprised at Disneyland. And I think I was either 5 or 6. So I can relate to your son. That was fun.
It's the best. It's
Yeah.
the best.
I recall pulling up and because we were staying in Las Vegas and they got up early to drive to Disneyland. And we get to the parking lot. And my brother's like, what does that sign say over there?" And I couldn't read. I didn't know it said
Mhm.
Disneyland. And it wasn't until we were like standing in line because my parents told me we were visiting some roller coaster my brother wanted to see. Like they didn't tell me it was Disneyland. And then I recall hearing you're at Disneyland in the announcement, and I'm telling you that was one of the best days of my life. So I can relate to your
Yeah.
son.
Yeah. Very cool.
And you just mentioned touring with Disciple. And so, are you currently on tour? How do our listeners find out about upcoming shows they could see you?
Yeah, so with the solo stuff, I have a band, which are all like friends of mine. They just have to be really, really good musicians, and we all met at church at some point doing worship together. So we don't tour in the traditional sense. We'll do like one-offs. Like I said, I played with Disciple a couple days ago. I'll do some festivals over the summer and going to Germany in the fall and doing a couple things over there. So. Yeah, if you follow me at nateparrish.com, that's probably the easiest. You'll find all the things there and social media. I try to be present on social media too. So
Okay, very good. NateParrish.com. And speaking of your social media, I've noticed you have some humorous posts on there, including, what was it, Nickelback? You listening to?
yeah, the Nickelback thing. Yeah. Nickelback is one of it's like Creed. It's one of those
Hmm.
bands that everyone hates, but you don't know why. Like, why did we hate this band? We liked them at some point. Nickelback for me wasn't a band I ever liked or paid attention to, but I just woke up one day. I was like, I'm just gonna force myself to listen to Nickelback because I don't want to be just hating things for no reason. And I also feel like with music, there's always some merit to it. There's always going to be a
Yeah.
good song or a good production or something. So just broadening your horizons a little bit doesn't hurt. So I forced myself to listen to about 6 or 7 Nickelback songs. Happy to report, I'm still not a fan, but they do have a couple songs that are really good, objectively good, catchy songs. The production's really good. So I don't know. It was just my encouragement for people to let's just not hate stuff for no reason. Just because that's what the cultural phenomenon is.
Well, that makes sense, especially with different styles of music that are out there. Sometimes we just get turned off just by that, and then we don't actually listen to the message. So it is kind of fun. I encourage people to follow you on your social media as well because you have some fun videos out there.
Yeah, I like making funny videos.
So you mentioned you have a 4.5-year old, and I'm just curious, have you seen any good cartoons lately?
I've seen all the cartoons lately. So he's really into robots right now, specifically droids. So he's into Star Wars, but he loves C-3PO. That's his favorite character, which is kind of a funny pick. It's a droid that doesn't actually have a lightsaber or do anything. but he really likes C-3PO. So we've been watching like the vintage Droids cartoon. I think it's from the early 80s. I don't think it did very well, but it's on Disney, and it's literally about C-3PO and R2 on like adventures. He loves that cartoon, and I've been watching it with him. It's
Oh,
really,
that's great. That's great. I think my son during that age was like Spider-Man and
oh yeah.
dinosaurs and yeah, but Star Wars came a little later for him. But there was a Star Wars time too. I feel like almost for every little boy at some point.
Oh yeah, he loves superheroes. Like when we took him to Disneyland, he was dressed up in an Iron Man costume, which is not out of the ordinary. There's plenty of days where he just wears a costume to go to Costco. He
Yeah.
just puts on a Iron Man costume or something. So he loves superheroes, but the Star Wars is like a new thing he's discovered, and it's cool rediscovering those things as an adult too.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're cool parents that allow our children to dress up because mine did Spider-Man for a while and then Mandalorian.
Yeah.
That was somewhat recent too. He's like, "Can I wear my Mandalorian outfit to a concert?" It was a local concert. I'm like, "I guess. Why not? You know, you pay for
Yeah.
this costume. You might as well get your money out of it, right?"
Why not? I mean, I am always going to encourage his creativity. He draws like nonstop. It's the best. And if he wants to wear a costume, I'm gonna really, I mean, it might get weird when he's like in his teenage years, and he wants to wear a costume to school. I'm like, but still, I might let you do it because I really want to foster creativity in a world that is increasingly digital and like
Yeah.
escapism, and all those things. I want to encourage any kind of tangible analog creativity where you just put on a costume and pretend to be a superhero. I'm into that.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, speaking of childhood and creativity, when did you get started in music? How old were you and what got you into it?
So my creativity, it started with art. So I had been drawing since I was, like his age, like 3 or 4. But I always loved music. I think I was just intimidated to pick up an instrument because I was afraid I'd be bad at it. So I waited and I finally asked for a guitar. I got a guitar on my 18th birthday. So I was a senior in high school. So that's pretty late. I think a lot of people will start younger than that, but I got a guitar when I was 18, and man, I would wake up at 7, play guitar till I had to leave for school. I would, as soon as I got home, I'd do my chores, throw my backpack on the bed, and then play guitar until my parents told me to shut up. So, um, yeah, I dove right into it. I taught myself and was in a band within 6 months. At the time, I was writing songs, but I didn't know what key they were in or what the chords were called. I would just like show the other bandmates like this is how the song goes. And my first show ever was with a band called the Huntingtons.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, we
they're uh,
know them.
they're
Yeah.
oh, I
Yeah.
loved it. Well, so
Yeah.
they were one of my favorite bands at that time, and
Oh,
still
okay.
listen to them. So as a new guitar player in a band, my first show is with the Huntingtons. I thought, well, I made it. That was easy, cool. We did a show at the Huntingtons, and then our band broke up the next week. So
Oh. Oh,
yeah,
what a
but
heartbreak.
I know, right? He wanted to go to college and like learn stuff. So my lead singer left, but that got me started. I think it was that bit of confidence right off the bat that really helped. Like, oh, I can do this, and I've been doing that ever since. So yeah.
So you kind of answered what I was going to ask you about, like favorite bands, but do you have
Mhm.
other favorite bands or who inspired you to start playing?
So the core memory of when I decided to start playing guitar was watching the MTV Video Music Awards. Back, if you don't know, MTV used to play music on their channel. And I was watching it with my dad, and it was Pearl Jam and Neil Young, and they were doing this song called Rockin' in the Free World. I loved it. I loved the song, but after the song was over, they just started breaking everything and throwing stuff. And for some reason, that my mind clicked, and I looked at my dad, and I was like, I want to do that. So
It was like
that's where it
a
started.
rage room with a concert.
Yeah, yeah. It was something about I don't know, just the conviction. like when they were singing that song, Neil Young and Eddie Vedder specifically, you could see the conviction, you could hear the conviction, and I think for me it clicked of like I'm a man of conviction, and music is such a great vehicle to carry that message. And the fact that they broke and destroyed everything as a teenager, I was like, I love that too. So that's kind of when it clicked for me.
So being a dad and also being sometimes on the road for concerts and events, this is a non-music thing that I'm going to ask. Do you have a favorite go-to fast food?
Oh yeah. So this is going to be heresy to the Christian community, but I much prefer In-N-Out to Chick-fil-A. I know. Everyone gasped,
Oh.
and I just lost all the fan base. But there's something about it's like a tradition with my band. It was after a show. I don't eat a lot before the show because I don't like to be full. But after, we have to go to In-N-Out. That's all I could think about. So I'm a California dude, so In-N-Out.
So let me guess. Double double animal style fries, chocolate shake.
No, actually, I'll do. Typically, it will be a double double, but I'll get two extra patties, so it's like four.
Oh my. Well, you just
Yeah,
performed, so you're hungry.
yeah, I'm really hungry. And fries well done and a Coke.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect.
So no
Yeah.
chocolate shake.
No chocolate shake.
That's
I'm trying to. You got to watch those
Oh
calories still.
man, those chocolate shakes
Chocolate.
are good though. No
Yeah.
joke. I was a vegetarian for 2 years and In-N-Out Burger cured me. So
Oh, amen. Yeah. Yeah. Prophesy.
I
That.
had it. Yeah.
Well,
That's
you could still eat fries there, right? But
right. Well, no, it was like the first time because there wasn't In-N-Out where I lived.
yeah.
And I didn't eat hamburger at all for like 2 years, and I flew on an airplane, ended up in, I think it was Las Vegas. They have an In-N-Out Burger. And everybody was going to an In-N-Out Burger, and I was starving, and I was like, what the heck? I'll just have a hamburger, It's not
Yeah.
and I had it, and I was like, these hamburgers are good. I don't remember hamburgers being this good. So,
There you go. God reached down and used In-N-Out to pull you from the depths, rescued you.
yeah, well, that's true. There is verses on the cups and the fries, so.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
But they aren't closed on Sunday, so that's one
There
thing.
you go.
So what's next for you? We talked about an album in the future. Do you have any upcoming events in the near future?
Yeah, so I'll have a music video for Small coming out pretty soon. Um, Check me out on the socials to see where to find that. And then I think my next thing is Kingdom Come Festival out in Indiana. I'll be playing that. Headed to Arizona in July, and then Germany after that. So those are the big things coming up. Yeah.
So I have to make a comment there. Arizona in July. Do you know how hot that
I do. I actually do know how hot it is. We played last year, so it's this really cool event. I'll give them a shout out, but
is?
it's called the Rock and Worship Boot Camp. It's really cool.
Okay.
It is for young people. And there's classes. So they bring in bands to do a concert, but the band members will teach like classes and breakout sessions during the day for kids interested in music and all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool. Playing with Disciple and Matt Baird from Spoken will be there that
Okay.
time too. So get to go and play with all my buddies, and then kind of invest in the next generation and hopefully answer some questions and help them avoid some mistakes that I've made over the years. But yeah, yeah, it's hot. We did it last year and it was hot, very hot.
It's like this is way too hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's called the Rock and Worship Boot Camp. Is that
Yeah, I think it's
okay?
Rockin' Worship, like Rockin.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to check that out. Even though I don't know if I'm gonna go to Arizona. Yeah, my daughter was born in Arizona in August, so I have memories
Oh,
of that. She came early too. She's like, I'm getting out of here.
well,
Um,
it's hot, but we are indoors, so
yeah. Air
Um,
air conditioning is a blessing in those hot
oh yeah.
environments. Let me tell you. Well, right now, as we are able to speak directly with our listeners and your fans, if you could be face to face with our listeners right now, which you kind of are on the radio, but what message would you want to tell them?
Well, obviously, I'm a Christ follower. Been a Christian for a long time. I had my periods of um, not deconstruction, I would say, but kind of looking at the faith and seeing if it was true for me and not just something I inherited or something that was in the cultural, norm that I sort of just adapted to. So, I mean, the most important thing I could tell you is Jesus is a real person, was a real person, and the most important thing you can do is decide what your relationship with him will be. Because you'll have one, but you need to decide what that is going to look like for yourself. And I believe he's the truth. And I'm a big truth guy. I ask a lot of questions. If you listen to my music, you can hear that. And I've arrived at the point where Jesus is true. That's something you're gonna have to decide for yourself. And then besides that, yeah, definitely go to In and Out and ask for a 4x4. Change your life.
All right. Once again, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us here on The Effect. This was AJ, and I was speaking with Nate Parrish, who is our March Artist of the Month.